scary story took place in an old small town. On one of the abandoned streets, at the very end of it, there was a very old, dilapidated house that always evoked strange feelings in everyone who saw it. The windows in the house were closed with thick curtains, and it seemed as if time had stopped inside. No one knew who lived there, and no one dared to go in. All the local children avoided the place, as if something terrible lurked in it. Many horrible stories were told about this house. Some said that a family of 5 had been murdered in it. Others claimed that it was haunted by the evil spirit of a woman who had gone missing many years ago. Many said they heard scary sounds like screams and moans coming from the house at night. Locals believed the place was cursed. One gloomy fall night, 4 young friends, Stephen, Nicole, George, and Susan, who didn't believe in the supernatural, decided to put their bravery, courage, and test this urban legend to the test. They met at the beginning of an abandoned street, armed themselves with flashlights, and headed toward the dreaded house. As they approached the house, the front door was slightly ajar. For a moment they stood still, listening to the silence around them. Stephen reached out first and gently pushed the door open, which creaked open. It was dark inside, smelling damp and old. They shone their flashlights into the hallway and saw the old tattered wallpaper on the walls, which was covered with cobwebs and dust. "There's definitely no one here," George said, but his voice trembled. They walked farther into the house, and the floors creaked under their feet, more and more, as if warning them of danger. Suddenly the friends heard a noise resembling a whisper. "Did everyone hear that?" Nicole asked quietly. The whispering grew louder, and Stephen shined his flashlight toward the second floor, where a wooden staircase led to. They went there, despite their growing sense of dread. As they climbed up, they noticed strange marks on the stair railings, as if someone had been holding onto them constantly with dirty hands. On the second floor, they saw a long hallway with many doors. Whispers sounded from behind a door at the end of the hallway. "Maybe we shouldn't?" Susan whispered and squeezed George's hand, and he felt her trembling with fear. They walked down the corridor and Stephen opened the door. The friends entered a small room. The light from the flashlights began to dim, and the room became darker. They saw faded paintings on the walls with portraits of people with sad faces. Suddenly, one of the portraits came to life. The woman in it, with red eyes, turned her head and looked directly at them. Nicole and Susan screamed in horror, and their flashlights went out, and the room went dark. And immediately, in the darkness, they heard a sinister laugh. It was a laughter that went straight to their bones, making their blood run cold. They rushed to the exit, but the door was already locked. The laughter grew louder and more horrible. Stephen broke the door down and they ran back into the hallway, but it had changed. The walls moved, the doors disappeared, and they found themselves in a confined space. They ran down the hallway back to the same room. There was laughter right behind them. They turned around and saw an open door with a cold smell coming out of it. On the threshold in the darkness stood a tall figure. It began to move towards them, and with each step, the air around them became colder. The friends ran away down the corridor, but it seemed endless to them. Mark fumbled for some kind of door in the darkness, and they ran in. It was a windowless room, and the door slammed shut, and the friends realized they were trapped. After a few seconds, they heard someone whispering their names in a slow and long, ominous voice. Suddenly, the room was filled with horrible sounds. Screams, moans, laughter, yelling and crying. The walls began to shift and shrink the space. The friends huddled in one corner, and the sounds grew louder and louder. Suddenly, everything went quiet. They opened their eyes and saw that they were sitting on the floor in the hallway of the house. The door was open, and they could see the street beyond it. They ran out of the house and ran without looking back. When they stopped and turned around, they saw that the curtain on the second-story window had moved. They rushed out again without looking back. After that incident, they never went back to that house, and after a while they all left that town. To this day, locals say that if someone passes by this house, they hear strange whispers, and sometimes there is something moving behind the thick curtains, watching the passers-by. They say that this house keeps looking for new victims who will want to cross the threshold and break its peace.